Resilience is adapting to the stresses that we have. It could be stresses as simple as running out of coffee in the morning, or it could be something as serious as developing cancer.
Resiliency to me is honestly just taking any situation or issue that you're facing and finding something positive in it.
I learn from every situation that comes into my life.
You're bound to go to places where you've never been. You're bound to sometimes be in situations that you've never even imagined you could be in.
There's explosions around you. You don't have time to sit and say, well, what does this mean for me in the long term?
Resiliency is that skill set that gets you through the not great parts of your day.
You are kind of judged more by how high you bounce after you've hit the floor.
It wasn't until probably 2 years ago when I was introduced to comprehensive Airman fitness that it all started to make sense. It started to make sense when I asked myself, what do I want to be known for? What do I want to stand for day after day? And even though I'm passionate about the Air Force, and I will always be passionate about the Air Force, I need to be passionate about also being a father. I need to be passionate also about being a friend. And so in that, the Air Force is going to be better because of it.
When you talk about comprehensive airman fitness as a whole, those are 4 pillars. Just like me sitting in this chair, I have 4 legs on this chair. If one leg is longer than the other, then I'll be uncomfortable.
The 4 pillars of CAF are social, physical, spiritual, and mental.
The wingman concept is part of that social support. I need other people's strengths, and there are times when I feel like I don't need them. That's when I need them more.
If I need help, I'll go get it. But there's many people in the world who are resistant to seeking help. They feel like they should be able to solve this problem.
I think that military service has a tendency to attract certain personality types. And it's difficult for us to admit when we need help.
We've become very much like lone wolves in the Air Force. We show up to work. At the end of the day, we go off and we do our own thing, and we don't see each other until the next morning. And we don't know what's going on with each other. We don't stop to ask what problems someone's facing. And we fear letting someone know what problems we are facing because of the consequences.
After my 3rd son was born in 2008, things were going really well. Fast forward a little bit to the spring of 2009, I had just been promoted to tech sergeant, and at my promotion ceremony I found out that I'd also been selected for officer training school, and I was set to graduate to complete my bachelor's a couple months after that. So I was feeling pretty good. I was on top of the world. Things were going well, and I was happy. Later on that summer, a lot of things sort of happened in rapid succession that sent me into sort of a tailspin. Kind of made me feel like my world was crashing down around me. In August of that year, I was diagnosed with a incurable rare illness. A little later on that year, I started having trouble in my marriage. And that went on for quite some time. Lots of arguments, and there were financial problems and a lot of other things that just sort of stacked on top of each other. I've heard it described in the past as, bricks, sort of stacking one brick on another until you finally just get to the point where you can't hold the bricks up anymore. And that's sort of how I felt, what was going on in my life. So despite the good things that had happened previously, all these things started to kind of drag me down. Eventually reached a breaking point and decided to take that step and walk into the mental health clinic and seek assistance.
Each one of us has a story to tell, and it's not all about combat. It's about that wolf that's out there. It could be depression, substance abuse. So this isn't just about combat. We're all warriors. We have that profession of arms, and being a warrior means you have to tell your story.
Whenever you speak something that's going on within you, it loses some power. You're putting it out in the open. And so being able to communicate with people around you what you're struggling with, immediately I think there is a sense of relief.
All those things collectively, I was much better equipped to work through after having had some sessions with my therapist.
I came back from a fairly long deployment to Afghanistan. Came back feeling rather healthy, actually, but I went on leave and started having some symptoms, so I went into the ER and they did a CT to try and find out what was going on, and lo and behold, they actually found a giant hemangioma on my liver. It was 4 times the size that anybody had ever seen, so it was a little alarming. The initial notification of being told that you have something that can burst at any moment, it's not cancer, so that's great, but if you got hit in the right quadrant, then it could possibly burst, and maybe you could bleed out.
Life is difficult. Life is stressful. We can't all do it alone. We need to seek help, and it's okay.
It was tough enough to get through a deployment of how long I was away from my family and the things that I had to endure. To come right back and endure another life-changing event was monumental. But the person that I am right now and the first sergeant that I am right now wouldn't be the same.
We often think of something as being resilient and that it's like a rubber band, that it's going to be stretched, but then it's going to return to its form that it was before. And for me as a chaplain, that doesn't quite cut it. There are certain events in our lives that are going to happen that you're just not going to return to being who you were before.
You hear about all these issues today that we're still having: sexual assault, substance abuse, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder. All these things are really impacting not just our Air Force, but our military as a whole.
I think substance abuse absolutely prevents you from solving your problems. You're not in a physical condition to figure things out, to develop solutions, and you're more likely to communicate with other people poorly, which ultimately will affect and possibly devastate your relationships.
Then I have a concern that we're going to lose a perfectly, tuned weapon system, that Airman, we're going to lose that Airman to something as horrible as either drug or alcohol dependency.
I drank a lot my first 6 months in the military. And it wasn't because of a situation, it was just partying, having a good time. But it got to a point where it just was too much. And I could see a negative impact in my career or in my job and in my personal life.
As a security forces member, seeing child neglect, child abuse, domestic violence, DUIs at the gate or on base, or even major vehicle accidents resulting in fatalities off base that have involved alcohol. Seeing those things, it's kind of a reality check for the patrolman that's on scene.
Because if it happens to come to a worst case scenario, dependency to drugs or alcohol, these skills can help you get through that if you've got them embedded in you. But if they're not, you could get lost down that path, and that's where then your wingman will come in. That's where hopefully we can see those needs, those incidences, and we can lean in to the situation and try to help with it.
Drugs and alcohol are not compatible with resiliency, period.
When I hear I have cancer, I'm not sure if that means if I have a death sentence or if I'm going to be able to work again, or what the outcome is. So it's a pretty scary situation. There was definitely some fear there, but once surgery happened and once everything came back positive, then my attitude and my response to that is, okay, I have the opportunity to really take control of my life.
Going through things, having resiliency, or not having resiliency, ignoring them, none of it's going to be easy. It's not supposed to be easy. but it's possible to develop positively from almost anything.
Having a diagnosis like that and then overcoming that really lets you know what's important. And the things you thought were important tend to go to the wayside, and the things that you didn't spend that much time on become more important.
Being a resilient airman, I think, is kind of like a badge of honor. Knowing that you've dealt with some situations that are very hard and very tough, it kind of helps you like understand yourself.
You realize how fragile life is, and coming that close to what could have been death, I don't know. But now everything has a little bit more purpose.
A large part of it was those resiliency skills and those tools that I'd gained from my interactions with the mental health professionals.
I loved who I became when I put on this uniform, when I look in the mirror, and it's no longer Brian, but it's Sergeant McIntyre Ray. That's the person I want to be when I take off the uniform.
And so comprehensive airman fitness allows Alan Weary to understand that, hey, that individual that you are, the Air Force wants that. And we're gonna create a platform that allows us, the Air Force, to enlist your perspective and enlist your ideas and your strengths so that we can be better as an Air Force. But it's also gonna allow you to make changes in your own personal life that the Air Force can't enlist. Because those things that you lean on, that drive your decisions, they contradict what we're about. And so that's what comprehensive airman fitness allows us to do. And that's what leadership has to understand. You're still gonna have the Alan Wearies of the world, but comprehensive airman fitness is gonna make sure that you get the best Alan Weary.